welcome back. It's time for newspaper review, and with us today to do the newspaper review we have Dr. Theophilus Abba, Program Director, Daily Trust Foundation. Is joining us here to review some of the headlines on the pages of today's newspapers. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So now let's go straight to the papers for the day. We have for Daily Trust, we have bright bold up there: flood kills 7 in Jigawa and Kebbi, submerged roads, farmlands, displays hundreds in Bauchi and Yobe. Now on the top left we have Yakase Yadudu caution Tinubu on new constitution Ohaneze. Now down left we have Tinubu commissions CNG buses and swears in head of service. We also have Zenith Bank shops for 289.38 billion capital for expansion. Now that we have for Daily Trust newspaper. Now moving on to Guardian. Guardian says federal government may miss 2025 targets as 136 million Nigerians lack internet access. National broadband plan. We also have court throws out application to ban Nigerians from further protests against hunger. Still on Guardians, we have Shaibu resumes as Edo State Deputy Governor. Now, we saw that in the news yesterday. And Nigerian-bound vessels pay $620 million war risk insurance premium. So those are the stories we have for you for the daily. But quickly now, Mr. Theophilus, federal government may miss 2025 target as 136 million Nigerians lack internet access on The Guardian. What's your take on that? We still have people lacking internet access in the world, in Nigeria in 2024?
Well, when we talk about information democratization, the internet has come to do it. I mean, to ensure that we have that democratization of information. That is, everybody should have access to information anywhere he lives. But the situation in Nigeria is that, you see, in rural areas and in some rural states, you know, the internet connectivity is difficult. You know, if you go to some states, you know, immediately you leave the express route and move into maybe about 1 kilometer, you know, into the community or into the farmland whatsoever, there's no more internet access. And so it becomes difficult to do a lot of transactions. Now we are talking about doing seamless online transactions. But those who live in rural areas, majority of Nigerians live in rural areas, they don't have access to internet facility to be able to conduct this kind of transaction.
So what does this mean for the supposed digital economy that the country is pushing for?
Well, digital economy depends on internet connectivity. That is number one. And then having the kind of gadget, you know, the kind of device that you can use, you know, to browse. Now, there are some phones that you cannot use to browse. You know, if you have what we call Paco phone input, you cannot use that phone to browse. And most of the people that we're talking about who fall into this, about 136 million, cannot afford to buy a phone that is maybe about 100,000 or even 200,000. These days, phones are the price of phones can be outrageous. 200,000. So if you don't have that kind of phone, you cannot do it. I mean, you cannot browse on. You cannot browse. So, and these people are now being denied access. You know, so I think the challenge here is that we must insist that these service providers, you know, ensure that they provide services that there's internet that there's connectivity for those who live in rural areas.
Okay.
Most times, the access they have is just to make calls, and after making the calls, you step out maybe about 1 kilometer away, or you can no longer get connectivity. So you have to keep calling them and say, okay, where are you now? So where I am now, there's no internet. I cannot receive any call.
Cool. All right. So that is on that now. Now let's talk about the CNG buses. Tinubu commissions CNG buses in Abuja, and they've said that it's going to roll out, and the essence of this is to ease the life of people and reduce dependency on petrol. Now, what's your take on last time we spoke about it? You said CNG buses, CNG has been in the news for the longest.
What I said the last time was that we ought to have seen these CNG buses, right from last year, because I mentioned that it has been on the table since 2020. You know, so we ought to have seen CNG buses, you know, rolled out on our streets. And now I'm happy that, this is really good news, and I commend the government that they're coming up, you know, they've launched the CNG buses, because we're expecting that many Nigerians, you know, will have access to these buses, pay smaller fares to go to, their office, to go to the market or wherever they are going to. And then people can just say, okay, I don't want to buy fuel. I can't fuel my car, but I can still go to the office. So that if you trek for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you get to a place where you can enter a bus and you take it to another location and you won't spend too much. Because the reason why many Nigerians have complained about the fuel price is because there is just no alternative. You must buy this fuel at this price that you cannot afford. So if these buses have come and the fares will be rock bottom, that means that you won't pay too much to move from one place to another. Now, if you go to your office or go to your place of work from your house and you're spending 4,000 to and fro, then that is not it. It may be better to even have a car, to buy fuel than to be entering one taxi 1, taxi 2, taxi 3. Then by the time you are returning the same thing, you are spending more than 1,500, 2,000.
Plus the stress.
So plus the stress. So if we have these CNG buses, and then now they've come, I expect that the government will roll out more, because we need more so that a lot of people will not be driving their cars to their offices. We need so many of them, and the routes have to be clearly, delineated,
right.
So that people know that if I leave my house in 5 minutes, I stand at the bus stop, I'll get a vehicle that will take me to my next destination. And that is what we expect. And I think I commend the government for making this one to come true. For making us to say, oh, it's not just talking about CNG buses, but then the CNG buses are available.
Happened, yes.
But then there must be maintenance of these buses. Because we have seen what we call Aero-5 buses in Abuja. Many of them, when they came, were very happy. But then at the moment, they are parked somewhere, because they are not maintained. So maintenance is important. We need garages where these vehicles can be properly maintained. And if possible, even, I don't know whether we can assemble them in such a way that Nigerians can afford to even buy, those in the private sector. For commercial purpose.
All right. Now, definitely, maintenance is one key factor, especially when it comes to things in Nigeria. They enroll out this, and then there's nobody to maintain, and continuity is also another problem. Now, let's look at on Daily Trust. Flood kills 7 in Jigawa and Kebbi. Farmlands have been submerged. People have been displaced in Bauchi and Yobe. Roads have been submerged. We're still talking about flood at this point in time. What's your thought on flooding year in, year out?
Well, you see, since I became a journalist and we covered the northern part of Nigeria, the issue of flood, has always been recurring. And when NIMET tells us there is going to be flood in so part of the country, we say, okay, well, they have done a good job, because they make a fanfare of it. But then the issue is not about announcing. I know over the years, I've heard about floods in Sokoto, floods in Kebbi, floods in Zamfara, floods in Yobe. All these areas we've heard about floods. But then year in, year out, we hear, oh, the flood had damaged village, submerged village, we've heard all these things. But what have we done? You see, the idea is that if you know that a place is prone to flooding, then there are things that you need to do. Teach people the kind of structure that they must build. If you know that there are floods in a particular area or a place, area is prone to flood, teach people to build high-rise structure. Maybe not. I'm not talking of upstairs, but the foundation should be higher. That means that you have a kind of retaining wall, into such an extent that it can stand against rainfall. Some will say, okay, we have to build something like pillar and then do a concrete on top of it and then put a house on. So even the flood is so much, it can just flow over, under the building. You understand? Now, if you know that a place is prone to flood, one of the things that people have done over here is to build dams. Dams will now accumulate this water, which you can use to farm. But you see, over the years we keep talking about it. All the agencies that ought to work to do the pragmatic action, to carry out the action that will say, okay, we know that flood can be a blessing. We can conserve this water and use it for farming. They have not done anything. There are so many dams that have been damaged. Nobody has thought about repairing them. So floods can be put to use for farming. There can be an advantage to it. But now every year we suffer the disadvantage of flooding, and that is not good for us. We're expecting that. Look, let's assume if some communities are prone to flood in Yobe State, for instance, and I say, okay, this community, you are prone to flood, teach them what to do so that before the next rainfall, they will not be exposed to flood. If you read that story, see, about 3 young girls coming from farm, got some grass for their livestock, and they were swept away. But that means that over the years, it was very, very clear that that place was prone to flooding. But then nobody did anything. We just waiting to say, it is the wish of God, and I don't think God has given us a measure of, wisdom to be able to carry something, to be able to predict. It's human beings who can predict. This can happen. So if you know it can happen, then work against it, work towards preventing it from happening.
All right.
But then we allow ourselves to be swept by floods, every year. And what we do is to lament.
Sit and lament. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Theophilus Abba. It's been a very interesting episode with you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the headlines we have on our dailies. And to you Nigerians out there, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak. We hope we're able to keep you informed. We hope we're able to educate you at the same time on the happenings around the country. And we hope you left with, 1 or 2 things from the show today. Having said that, we've come to the end of Daybreak today. Definitely we'll see you. We have our sports we have sports at the top of the hour with Ajisha Fair, where they're going to bring a recent sport update. Thereafter we have business and we have our news. We have lots of program lined up for you today, so do not go anywhere. Stay tuned on Trust Television, and don't forget, do the right thing and be a good Nigerian. God bless Nigeria. I am Lilian Ogazi. Bye for now.